Hello, Marty Rawson. How are you?
Well, hello, Michael. I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Really good. So, we've only really just gotten to know each other fairly recently. And because we're feeling so similar and aligned, I've invited you in to be one of our pilots, which means doing regular shows, which we're going to be starting on Patreon very soon. And I'm really excited to get to know you more. Maybe just to begin with, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you've been, what you've done.
Okay. Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me and having me be a part of your organization. It's an honor. I have had a lifetime of paranormal and spiritual experiences, and it started when I was quite young, and it has continued fairly regularly throughout my entire life. As time went on, I did not stay very positive because of the way the world was. And eventually, Spirit had to get my attention. And they did this by an act of literally divine intervention. And this was a big turning point in my life. From that day forward, which happened just barely over 24 years ago, I have been working with Spirit and uh, basically changing my entire life, healing my life, and carrying on with the work that they are helping me to do. It's been an incredible journey, and I've ended up having experiences with just about everything that most people are still wondering if it's real. So it's been a wild adventure. I'm just happy to be here and to try to help people to make their own connection with the divine.
What's really interesting for me is I had an angelic encounter that most people would know about by now. That's what started Beyond Being Human off. And I haven't had too many other kinds of experiences, some, but that was absolutely the most dramatic. And the message that I got, which started the project, was to raise people's awareness of our multidimensional nature. So you having all of those different kinds of experiences, I think is really important to share and let people know, firstly, that yes, a lot of stuff that we think is really crazy and out there and like, oh, it just couldn't exist or whatever, is actually real. And we're getting to know more and more about it as more and more people talk about it, which is fantastic.
Right.
I notice you've written a book, which I'm yet to read properly. I've skimmed, but would you like to go into a few of the instances of the most amazing experiences that you've had that are in the book?
The first one that I had that was a major experience, I was quite young. I was only about 7 years old, maybe 8 years old. I can't remember. But this was an instance of missing time where I had gone to a park with a church group that I was in that day. And the last thing I remember was standing next to a tree, waiting for my turn on some of the playground equipment. The next thing I knew, I was walking back from the far end of the park and everybody was gone. Literally from looking down at my feet to walking backwards, and there was nobody there. It didn't take too long, and I heard somebody screaming my name. And that's when one of the nuns, who was not very happy, came to find me. And the funny thing was that I knew that I had been taken, but I also knew that I really loved them. And they are the ones that felt like family. And I wanted to go with them. I didn't want to come back. And all I knew was that they had done something very good for me. They loved me as well, but I had to come back into this life, and that it was all going to work out. And so I just trusted that. And as soon as I told a couple members of my family about it, I found out why you didn't talk about these things. So from that day forward, I just kept everything to myself. But it didn't take long, and I realized that I didn't necessarily seem to live in the same world that most of the other people did, because they weren't experiencing the same things that I was. As time went on, I actually had an experience where, like I said, of divine intervention. And I was probably in my early 40s about that time, late 30s, actually. I had been living a very unhealthy lifestyle, to say the least, because I had given up all hope. I knew that the world was not supposed to be like it is, but nobody seemed to care. So the spirit got my attention one night, and they showed me how close I was to dying, that if I continued down that road, I would. And they showed me what I would feel like if I did do that, because it was my conscious choice. And I realized at that time that the way that I would feel if I continued to do that was way worse than what I was going through as a human. And the most incredible thing about the entire experience wasn't that they got my attention and everything else. It was the thickness of love that existed in the room. Because even though they were very big and quite displeased with my behavior, the love was so thick that I could not be afraid. Fear couldn't exist in their presence. It was bizarre. It was amazing. And I remembered thinking, oh my God, this is what home feels like. We never get to feel this here. This is how home feels. And so the next morning I had to get up and go, well, that was so nice having that feeling, but they told me it didn't have to be the way it had been, and that I could change my life around. So I made the choice to give it another shot, try it their way. And let's just say the last 24 years have been a wild ride. When I did write the book, I wrote the book, one, to share some of the experiences that I have had so that other people might see some of the ways that spirit can interact with people, but also understanding that they interact with every individual in their own unique way, not necessarily the way they did with me. What I wanted to also add into my book was how to work with energy and how to create your own personal relationship with the divine. Because that, to me, is the key. And that is what Spirit Alliance is all about, is helping as many people on the planet as possible create their own unique relationship with the divine in their own way. The vision that they gave me for this was so beautiful that when you think of what this world could be like if millions of people were simply following their guidance that they get from the angelic realm and the higher dimensional beings that have a viewpoint that we never get. They can show us, they can create the synchronicities for us. And we are the boots on the ground that can do the work. If you look around us, you can see that there's a lot to be desired in the world we've created. And if we want to pull this out and really make heaven on earth, it is possible. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to get up off our knees, stand in our own love and light, make that connection with the divine, and work with them truly in a spirit alliance. And when we do that, we are going to be unstoppable. And that's my vision. That's what I want people to understand. And there's not a better time to do it than now.
It's really amazing hearing you express it in that fashion, because over time I've got very much the same message. And in fact, when I started Beyond Being Human, and those words were given to me in a sort of manner of speaking as well, I felt like I got a download, like Beyond Being Human. And it's like, okay, what's that about? And very soon after, it was like, well, it's about exploring our multidimensional nature. But then going further and further into this and expanding what we're doing, the real tagline that I don't talk about very often is igniting and sustaining our divine spark.
Amen. Yeah.
That really sums it all up. However, what I'm feeling is maybe for the mainstream audience, it could be too much. It's like people's curiosity gets engaged exploring our multidimensional nature because they want to know about that. But as soon as you start crossing the line into religion and spirituality, and I've felt a lot of people starting to turn off and things like that. But it's at that particular juncture, that that crossover point where, okay, make a decision to embrace the divine, because the divine's totally embraced you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, so thank you for that. And I'm so looking forward to hearing more. Maybe go into some of the things that you offer on a personal level. Like I know you want to do some courses and you are doing healing and things like that and consultation with people.
I started out doing energy work, and that was inspired by spirit. They led me to a town about 80 miles away to find a particular book in a particular shop in a little tiny town. It's actually quite funny now that I look back on it. All I knew was I needed to go to this town. And then I found the bookstore, and then I found the book. I read it that night, and it was Chronic Healing by the Filipino master Cho Kok Soy. I devoured that book in one night, and I knew that I already knew how to do this. And I did. It was obviously I was remembering, not learning. And so that set me on the path. And I took up EMF balancing and got certified in both the basic level and the advanced. And then I studied Reiki, and I am now a Holy Fire 3 Karuna Reiki Master, online and in person. I offer a combination of all of these systems put together as far as the energy work that I do. And the beautiful thing about working with divine energy is that anything that is truly divine will always mesh seamlessly with anything else that is truly divine. So they all work together seamlessly. If you didn't know one from the other, you wouldn't tell when I use a technique from which one. It doesn't matter. But it's a beautiful art and science of channeling divine energy, which is what Reiki is. I'm an energy healer in that sense. I also teach Reiki to a lot of people. And then I'm also a practitioner of Ayurveda. And Ayurveda is the ancient science of life and longevity out of India. It's actually the oldest natural healthcare system on the planet. It was thousands of years old when the Chinese emperor wrote his Ping Fa on Chinese medicine. It's got a very, very, very long history. It is literally where all of the natural healing modalities came from. So they call it the mother of all healing because it truly is where everybody went to study and brought it back to their own lands and countries. Ayurveda covers a tremendous breadth of knowledge. And most people think it's just herbs, but it's far beyond that. It covers literally every modality of healing that there is, including the color therapy, gem therapy, sound therapy, pranayama, the yogic breathing, meditation, acupuncture, massage, everything. Okay. So Ayurveda is a beautiful science, and I really recommend that in the way the world is going right now, even if people can learn just a little bit of the basics of Ayurveda, enough to where they feel comfortable with the basics, I promise you they can help keep themselves healthier so they don't have to go to the doctor as often. And that's the goal. It's not to replace or push aside Western medicine. It is simply to say, well, the healthier I can keep myself, the less often I have to go to the doctor, which is just common sense to me. that's the way I look at that. Ayurveda is a wonderful art and science, and I highly recommend at least a basic knowledge of it.
So when you go live, will you be doing some exercises or introducing people to some practical things with that?
The ones that are going to lend themselves to a video would probably more of the pranayama or explaining some of the differences between different types of meditation work better for different body types. Okay. And that's something that is not explained very much to people because literally the way your body is made will make certain meditation types better for you and more natural for you. Whereas your buddy sitting next to you might be totally different. We could talk about that and also do some various breathing exercises and stuff like that.
Well, I'm very much looking forward to that. And just in parting now, so far, what are your impressions of Beyond Being Human and what we're doing?
Beyond Being Human is truly the platform that I think is going to be able to help a great portion of humanity make their connection with the divine. I think it's wonderful. I was so thrilled when I first found your website to see that there was somebody else that was so in sync with what I was trying to say. And so it was a joy to me to go, I found my people, you know? And so it was a lot of fun and it was exciting. And I think that this is going to really give people an opportunity to learn a lot of new things and find the information that they're looking for. Because as the world awakens, thousands and thousands or millions of more people are going to need a place to go to find out, how do we do these things? How do I deal with what I'm going through as my life changes so fast? Okay, because it does change fast. It's going to be a wild ride, but it's going to be good.
Well, Marty, I couldn't have said it better myself, and that's absolutely what we're trying to do. And I'm so glad that so many people, such as yourself and all of the other flight crew and pilots, as we call them, basically the presenters who are doing this most amazing research based on their own experiences and learning through lifetimes of all that they've gone through. And it's a great bunch of people, and we've got lots planned coming up. So please join us on Patreon for extra stuff, but also on the website. Really, really been great to talk.
And thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you as always. And I look forward to the next time we have a chance.
Cool.
Okay.